Uh, of course, you can spend hours and hours thinking and talking about these things, but chefs are doers, as Paul points out. And let's move over now to the next discussion here. I'm not going to be involved. Like, this is going to be super fun because I just going to introduce this one, and it's with two individuals who have a lovely conversation. It is Estefania Sasyk, who is, chef researcher, not chief researcher, but chef researcher at the Basque Culinary Center. And anyone who knows anything about food knows, of course, that the Basque country, that's where the best food in the world is. Hands down, we give it to you. It's no competition. But there are some people, of course, that can provide really, really amazing food in other places too. And we have the doyen of the Swedish food system, or the food scene, Mathias Dahlgren, with us. And all the stars in the universe is basically what the Guide Michelin has given to his restaurants over the years. And I give it to you, Estefania and Mathias, to take it from here in the discussion regarding chefs and personalized nutrition. The stage is yours.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. I'm very curious. What's the name of the dog?
This is Elliot.
Elliot.
And he loves good food too.
Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be with this legend, Chef Mathias. I'm not really sure why I'm here, but I'm gonna go happy-go-lucky and just talk about what we do. So at Basque Culinary Center, we have this concept that we are toying with called personalized gastronomy. And what this is, it's a combination between different things that are happening in the food scene right now, in the food space. One is nutrition and personalized nutrition. We understand that everyone is different and has different needs. So we work with nutritionists on this aspect, on the level of the microbiome, microbiota, and the omic sciences. So we're researching how food impacts your body to a molecular level. And then there's other aspects, of course, of the word personalized, which is what are your preferences and how are they modulated by the context, by your personality, by your emotions, and even your genetics, right? And the third part is this word that we have at the end, which is gastronomy. And I think this one is where Chef Mathias has a lot to say about, for sure, is understanding how we can give gastronomic value to foods that are good for you, and also good for everyone, right? But good for your genetics, good for your preferences, and really tasty and delicious. So this is what we're aiming to do. And in the context of food tech and why we're here, the ideal or our dream looking into 2050 or 2040 is that all the devices and all the things that interact with our daily lives, which we see a lot more every day, say Alexa, say your phone, but even more interesting things like, say, your toilet, would connect and talk to each other to provide information of what you need to buy in the supermarket, of what the chef needs to prepare for you, especially you, personalizedly, and streamline this experience to really optimize what we eat to thrive. So this is a little bit of what we do, Mathias.
Thank you.
Right.
Estefania. We had a little chat over the phone because we didn't know each other, so we talked last week, and I found it as a very interesting work that you do. But at the same time, I also see a lot of. I understand that this is really, really important work, and it's good for, let's say, super specialized food for people who actually need it, probably in the hospital world, or if you're feeling sick. But at the same time, I also feel a little bit scared about it, because if you see it out of a restaurant point of view, it sounds absolutely terrible. Because if you should cook for, let's say, you should cook. First of all, already today, I can see that as a problem, that many people eat very out of a personal way, and it's not a problem. Let's say if it was like 20 years ago, you went to a restaurant, maybe one person want to eat fish, another person want to eat meat, and somebody say, oh, I would like to have some salad aside. Oh, it's no problem. But when it comes to maybe you have, let's say, 100 special requests just for one person, it will be, I think it will be a hopeless situation to cook in a restaurant. But I find it interesting that this kind of research is done, because probably most people would feel better if we knew what we should eat. And what we see today is that people eat too much. I think eat too much of the same thing, and I suppose that probably the most important thing, not only for us humans, also for the planet, is the key word is balance. Because I think we were eating more balanced food back in the days, because then you used what you had, and we didn't have a lot of animal protein, for instance. And today you can see, I think one of the most ordinary thing that people eat today is a chicken breast. And if you eat chicken breast 5 days a week, it's not good probably for you or for the planet. So I think we have to find out of I think the key word is balance. And also there is a social aspect of eating, sharing a meal. You sit around the table with people, maybe your family or it's friends, and if you're eating different plates of different food, you're actually not sharing the same experience. So it's also a little bit, I think, of a social problem, can become a little bit of a social problem. Even if you are super healthy, it can become a little bit of a problem. Eating together is actually one of the things that makes us humans, because people in all times, all over the world, has always tried to eat together, and we want to eat together if we can. That is what divides us from the animals. It's like what was the name of the dog? Hercules, or what's his name?
We asked and now we forgot.
Yeah, now we forgot. Yeah, and if we, let's say, the dog in the studio, if he can eat alone, he prefer that. But if I can eat with you, I prefer that.
It would be my honor. Actually, I was thinking, from our conversation, because you revealed, the makings of this conversation, we talked about this before, and we talked about the social aspects. And I was actually thinking about it afterwards. And I think when we talk about personalization, a lot of people is thinking about marketing, bottom lines, how can I segment the segment of the market, and so on. And I think this is completely valid. Things have to be viable economically. But I think it's also very interesting to think of personalization from a point of view of empathy. There's a lot of things happening in the world outside of food and outside of tech that have to do with a social reckoning, right? There's a lot of people that is saying, when you say everybody, I don't feel included, right? And this happens with people of color. We've seen Black Lives Matter. We've seen Me Too, and all these movements that are Asian Lives Matter, or so on, right? What was it? Respect Asian Lives or something? Well, anyways, so there's a lot of people that is saying, when you say everybody, you're not talking about me. And this is happening in the restaurant as well. When you say everyone wants a fish or a meat, it's not me, right? So I think the trend is inevitable, because we're living in a moment where there's a reckoning and there's some inclusion that needs to happen. And this inclusion happens through this lens of social food, right? Everything that is social up to now has been, at least in food, has been gone through this filter of feel good, right? We share a meal, everything brings us together. But also some stinky tofu or a Roquefort can bring us apart. In a very bad way, in a sense. Maybe someone gets offered that Roquefort cheese. Wow, we made this in this cave. This is our tradition. And someone with little manners could say, this is disgusting. And that's a huge divide, right? Yeah. So I think it's interesting for us to question ourselves. What are we assuming from the people we cook for, or we do tech for, right? Or we develop tech for. Yeah. And I think in this sense, health has a lot of importance, like your own personal health, but also how you feel included in a system that produces food
Yeah.
And also, in another sense, how personally things align with your values, which is another aspect of personalization that is super important. Like, it has to be healthy, it has to fit you, it has to be delicious to your preferences, but also align to your values, right? And I think that's you touch on a very important point, which is like food systems are producing chicken as it would be bread. Actually, there's a very notorious, I think, well, some brand of big chain burgers that breaded a chicken between two chickens. That was the sandwich. So it was a chicken sandwich, right? So so we need to understand like what are the priorities and ethics of the food behind, and how do we cater to the principle, to your personal principles that are rooting these choices, right? And I think this is where it comes, or what it could be interesting for the tech people that is listening to us. We come to this conclusion of like, what can tech do to help, rather than to make a hell out of a restaurant with all this bunch of choices, or make us addicted or stress us, or all these things that tech sort of like have had associated with in the bad part of it, right? I don't know if because you said really interesting things about what we need from tech, rather like what tech wants us to click on, or what tech wants to nudge the consumer to, right?
But I think that one of the most difficult things with like especially when you do vegetarian protein, it's like in that, I mean, in that field, it's like, I think it's very difficult to attract a huge number of people to change to that, and that is the key. How to find a way to make new kinds of proteins super attractive to a huge mass of people, and not only it's good for the planet, because then I think it will fail. And it's like, I mean, I would like to comment on what you said. It's also interesting that if you look on where vegetarian food is really big, it's among the poorest people of the world and the really, really rich. And the many billions of people in between don't feel that it's for them. And then how can we together create attractive food, so we find a balance of eating, so we feel healthy, we feel good, and we also we don't ruin the planet.
Right. Which is, of course, like a super priority for everyone right now. I mean, at least for people that is trying to scale to millions and billions, right? As tech people is. And I think to that point, how can we make a thing that is not appealing to a growing middle class in places such as India, South Asia and Africa, right? Which are booming populations, projected to boom even further into the next 30, 20 years, and associated huge growing middle class that wants meat. Because this is the in-between, right? The people that cannot afford it, and the people that have like gone through this phase of consumption and are now the conscious consumer, right? And I think the way we can nudge people to this is chefs, to be honest. And I think that's why we're sitting in this virtual table. I think chefs are the most underexploited resource of the whole food system. Chefs are artisans that keep traditions alive and make them modern, sometimes tweak it, right? Adapt it to the local taste, adapt it to the current taste. Chefs have super intimate relationships with producers and understand what are the difficulties of these people and what they need. Chefs have a huge understanding of what the ingredient, or why an ingredient has gastronomic value. What's their potential? Chefs know a lot about what people like and how to make it delicious. And we also understand a lot about ingredients and what is the best suiting technique. What is the season that produces the most tasty this or that carrot or berry? And I don't know, like this knowledge has been only focalized in one place, that is a restaurant. And I think the pandemic has shown how sensitive the restaurant industry is, how vulnerable we are, and how much more potential we have to explore our knowledge outside of the restaurant, in homes, in food manufacturing, with food technologists, in the development of new ingredients. There is like this differential knowledge that is just there. And well, I want for everyone in this room listening to this conversation to know that chefs and gastronomy, we are out there and we can really weigh in this conversation of like how to make good food delicious, right?
You're full of positive energy that makes me happy.
Let's do it.
I believe that you're true, that there are many chefs in the world who can help to make new things taste better. But
right.
we are not scientists in that way. So I think we need to find a way how to collaborate among, and everybody who wants to collaborate could join actually. But as I see it, I often get the possibility to try new things that comes in my road. And what I see is that many things that is done is I don't really understand why they come up as an idea, because there are already things that is maybe as interesting, or why should we make a vegetarian cheese, or why should we do let's say, why should we make vegetarian meat? It's like, for me, that is kind of strange, because there is, if you look on cooking in general, even if you eat like balanced food, most of the things that taste great on the planet comes from the plant world, and a lot of the fantastic flavors and textures and things. So but the problem is knowledge, because most people find it difficult to cook. Let's say people say, "Oh, it's more difficult to cook fish than meat." It's not. It's easier to cook fish than meat because it's much quicker.
Yeah.
And vegetables is even quicker than fish and meat. Often it takes a lot of time, maybe, to peel and doing the process of like taking care of them, but the cooking process of vegetable is really, really quick. But many people are not really used of using so much vegetables. And I think that is what we can see also, is that in the you say that the chef can bring something to this evolution thing of
right.
food. And I think so. But if we look on it in still today, food and nature is not on the schedule in school. So it's like a very I would say it has not had a very like a good reputation to cook, for instance. It's like something that you just go home and you eat something your mother did, or food is something. It's like petrol. You just need it to run the engine of life.
Well, Mathias, we're just going to have the first food system UN conference of the world now.
Yeah.
So it's not on the schedule for anything up to this year.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
Yeah, but it's kind of strange, because it's such an important
right.
thing for us humans, and it hasn't been valued as important as it is. And I think it's time for food to be really talked about, something that is it's a super important issue in our lives.
I think food, and I think also like not only food as like nourishment, volumes, quantities, calories, macronutrients. But let's talk about food from a perspective of gastronomy, which is really the perspective of the majority of us relating to food every day. Enjoying, sharing, acting irrationally, emotionally with food. This is the relationship that needs to be shaped and described in the food system to start to begin to make like actual change that matters towards the goals that we all have collectively, and that the sector, the food industry, the food tech industry, and all the other industries around food have, right? And I think what you bring to the table, it's really, really valuable in the sense that it doesn't have value to say you have involved chefs or you have involved this or other stakeholder right at the end saying, Matthias, what do you think about this? Rather than say, Matthias, what should we do? What ideas you have? How could we collaborate from the inception of an idea together? You know what I mean? Because we are not scientists, of course. We're not marketers. We're not tech people. We're chefs. But, tech people and marketers and scientists are not chefs either. So it goes both ways in a sense. So I believe, and actually the place I work in, we believe very strongly in collaboration. In the R&D center I work with, we work with like nutritionists and sensory analysis people and chefs and lab people and economists and all sorts of people thinking about projects that from the beginning, everyone puts in their perspectives. And from the Basque Country, we are very focused on this idea of multidisciplinary collaboration. We have a lot of plants cooking. And one of them is to create a center, a great center, a big one in the middle of San Sebastian to attract talent. Talent that wants to think about food and wants to think about food challenges. One of the first actions, because this building doesn't exist yet, is a dream that I hope you will be a part of, Matthias. I'm inviting you officially here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. And one of the first steps we're going to have, it's accelerator incubator event on the road. And we will be touching 4 cities in the next 10 months. We will be in Madrid, we will be in Biarritz, we will be in Copenhagen, we will be in Stockholm the next year. We're sorry about that, but we're really close to Stockholm. And we will be in Tel Aviv. And the idea is to start involving a global community in this conversation of how can different disciplines create good, better food tech? How can we make technology that is not an end in itself, but it is a means to an end, which is, I think, really the point of this conversation. And I hope many conversations happening in the tech industry, which is what is this good for? How does this take us closer to the idea of people cooking more vegetables, people learning how to reconnect with food, children valuing cooking, and all the other very important issues that you have brought up in this conversation, right?
Yeah. I think the key is, how can we make something so attractive? So let's say the taxi driver somewhere in the world who just should eat, he would like to eat that because it's good. Because most people don't have also the time to think of all the super issues around food. But how to choose, let's say eat a vegetarian hamburger that is killer good instead of eating a chicken breast. How do we do that?
And how can we make them want it? Be like, I am, because there is a status next to it to say this is desirable. I'm doing something that's sexy, that's cool, right? All the things that we chefs sort of really know about. I mean, I'm pretty sure someone goes to Mathias Dahlgren restaurant and feels pretty good about being seated there. So, you are a total expert in creating this feeling of special occasion, and this can be created in so many aspects with food. I think the possibilities are so important and so infinite of collaboration, that I really hope people reach out and we make this happen. Chefs start being a real part of the conversation in the food tech space.
You told me when we talked last week, you said one thing to me who I was thinking about, and I think that is you were talking about the toilet paper.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No,
I talk endlessly, apparently.
Yeah. No, but I think this is also about that everybody that can contribute in small steps in doing good is very important. That, let's say, you said for you, the most important thing for you is that you buy the really good organic food for your family and your children. But sometimes you rush into the supermarket and you buy some toilet paper that is not maybe organic. But it's like, I think it's also many people feel a little bit ashamed of doing wrong if you don't are 100% perfect. And I think this is not about being 100% perfect, it's doing as good as you can. Yeah.
Right. Well, you have revealed my secret. My toilet paper is not organic. No, but I totally agree. I mean, this goes the same way for weight loss and a lot of different things. Like, it actually is about, putting the effort and putting the work, and it's like, it's accumulative at the end. I just think that the important thing is to have the main ideas clear. The idea that tech has to contribute to some good at the end of the day, and then we make our best effort to make it happen, right? Or I totally agree. I mean, I think it's a millennial disease, what you're describing, this idea of everything has to be 100%. But hey, well, I am a person of my generation at the end.
I mean, then we come back to balance in life. I think balance in life and balance with food is super important, and try to do as good as possible.
Right.
If you do,
and do it in collaboration.
Exactly. That's good.
I'm looking at the watch and I'm getting nervous. We have 1 minute left. What should we talk about now?
What are you going to eat tonight?
Rendang, which is a very elaborate Sumatran dish that cooks down beef in a lot of coconut milk, and it's one of my husband's favorite dish because his mom is from Sumatra. So,
Fantastic.
What are you gonna eat?
I don't actually know what I'm going to eat because I'm at work and I'm going to eat the staff meal, but I don't know what the staff meal is today. But I hope it's something really tasty.
Well, if chef is around, for sure it's gonna be delicious.
Yeah.
The pressure is on for whoever is cooking.
I hope so. Okay, it was really nice talking to you. Johan, are you still with us?
He's there.
We can see him, but I cannot hear him.
And on the notion that we shouldn't feel ashamed if we're not 100% perfect, I do think, however, that we need to start to approach 100% perfect, because otherwise we're kind of doomed as a species. So, of course, I live in the fantastic grandeur that all we white 50-plus-year-old men are perfect already, right? So there's nothing we can learn, or perhaps we're 100% wrong, which I actually think is the case. Personalization is, of course, a future. Good food everywhere is, of course, another future. And thank you so much for having this wonderful discussion.
Thank you.
Estefania and Mathias, I look forward to welcoming you back soon again to continue this wonderful dialogue.
Thank you very much.
And have wonderful meals tonight.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.